I'm going to do a walkthrough of AWOL's guidebook. I won't be covering everything, and also I haven't been past Connecticut since 2013, so I'm not going to give any advice past there. I'm going to talk about places I can remember. Hopefully the book will jog my memory, and places I like. There'll be a lot of cuts in this because it's going to take me a while to look through the book. When you get to Amamacola Falls, I always have a problem with that one. There's a shelter there in case you get in late. A lot of times when I took the bus down from up north, they got me in late, and you can sleep in the shelter, start in the morning, and it's like 8 miles up to Springer Mountain. I usually stop at Springer Mountain Shelter. It's a small shelter, but good water source, lots of tent sites. And remember, don't go too far, too fast, too soon. Okay, Springer Mountain. I'm not going to do a bunch of shelters because I can't remember most of them. It's all a big blur. But do not plan on staying at Blood Mountain Shelter. It's just a little before Neal Gap. Blood Mountain Shelter is one of those old buildings that were built for a lookout tower or some crap. It's made out of stone, and it has a doorway with no door, windows with no windows. Even in the summertime, it's kind of cold up there, windy. And it's just not a place to sleep. But just down Blood Mountain and you run right into the Neal Gap. Okay, and Neal Gap, that's always my first mail drop. That's where Mountain Crossings, the Outfitter, and Hostel is at. And it's also the only place where the trail goes through a building. Yeah, send a mail drop there. They have food and stuff too. You can add to it, but it's right on the trail, and it's 30 miles from Springer Mountain. That really should be your first stop, for resupply. Okay, the next resupply would be Hiawassee, Georgia. I always like top of Georgia. It's about 5 or 6/10 of a mile up the road from the trailhead. There's shuttles always going there. Bob's a great guy, very knowledgeable, and the place is really nice. It's one of the nicest hostels on the trail. I'm not sure if I remember right, but I think some rich guy, it used to be his lodge and man cave kind of thing, so it is nice. And if you don't do top of Georgia, the Budget Inn is a hiker motel in Hiawassee. But Bob runs shuttles all day, so it's easy to go into town and resupply. And right after Hiawassee, when you get on the trail, the next shelter is Plum Orchard, I think it's Gap, yeah, Plum Orchard Gap Shelter. Very nice shelter. It's a 3-level, good tenting. That's a good shelter. Keep your eyes open when you get up on the Georgia-North Carolina border. It's a little sign about this long. It says GANC. I've actually blown right past it a few times. If you see the big crooked tree, you know you're in North Carolina. And believe me, when you see the tree, you'll know the one I'm talking about. Franklin would be your next resupply. Hang on. Winding Star Gap at Franklin, it's about 17 miles into town, but there is the city bus service, or county bus service now, is running out there to pick up hikers, and there's always trail angels and people who hike get you into town. Getting into town's no problem, and I highly recommend Gooder Grove Hostel. It gets my highly recommended, that's my best recommendation. But no, it's a really nice place. Gooder trail named Zen is so cool, and he also, I think it's $3 to take the bus, but he deducts that off your stay there, so it's a free ride there, and he'll get you back in the morning, or the bus will take you back. And last year there was some church, I don't remember the name of it, but I never went, because if you get up at 6 a.m. you can go to a free pancake breakfast every morning, but I just never felt like getting up. Alright. And they have an Outfitters there. They actually have 2, so it's a good place if you need anything like that. The next stop is one of my favorites, the NOC Nantahala Outdoor Center. The trail goes right through the middle of the place. It's a whitewater rafting thing, restaurant, very, very small convenience store, and an outfitter. Always send a mail drop there to the outfitter. They have some, trail food in the store, but that's a place I always do a mail drop. It's a great place. Any place that's right on the trail is always freaking good. Your next stop would be Fontana Dam, and then there's Fontana Village. It's also where the Fontana Hilton is. It's a pretty nice shelter. It's big, but it's really the view. You're right there, I guess it's on the lake where the dam is dammed up, and it's beautiful. And I think it's about 2 miles into the village. You can call for a shuttle from the village. And they have a small laundromat, convenience store, and a post office. The convenience store has enough resupply, but I've always been a little weirded out by their prices there. And the selection's okay. I will usually send a mail drop there. I might or might not this year, I don't know. And then you go into the Smokies from Fontana Dam. Smokies, I bet it's really nice in the summertime. Never been there then, but usually my worst weather on the trail until Maine is the Smokies. Expect rain, 40-degree weather, but it's a big climb up there, but once you get into it, you kind of stay up in the mountains until you come out. Now you get to Newfound Gap, and 17 miles down to Gatlinburg one way, or 17 miles the other way to Cherokee. If you like to gamble and you got money, go to Cherokee. If you're like most of us, go down to Gatlinburg. It's an experience. If you've never been to Gatlinburg, it's, well, I won't say any of the adjectives I'm thinking. Don't want to offend anybody. But it's a fun place. And right after the Smokies, about 4 miles you come out, you'll come to Standing Bear Farms. One of my favorite hostels there. It's about 4/10 down a gravel road. It's quiet. It's rustic. They've been adding on to it every year. And they have a little store there, which you're only a day and a half from Hot Springs. They have plenty of resupply to get you to Hot Springs. So ideally what I do is there in Gatlinburg, if you take the bus, it's maybe 3 miles out of town, you'll go to Food City Supermarket with normal prices, and I'll get enough resupply to get the Standing Bear, because I don't want to carry the 5 days or 6 days worth of food to get all the way through the Smokies. Wow, I haven't even had to look at the guidebook. Nice, but I will go blank soon. Next, like I said, is Hot Springs. They've got a hostel there. Well, they got a couple. If you're a vegetarian, which I am not, so I've never stayed there, but if you're a vegetarian vegan, you have to stay at Elmer's. Elmer's is legendary for that kind of thing. I personally like meat. And Hot Springs has a very friendly hiker laundromat. And you're going, what does he mean, hiker-friendly laundromat? Some laundromats don't appreciate us going in the bathroom and changing our clothes because we're trying to get everything washed and sitting around in rain gear. So this one's okay with that. When you do this, though, be respectful. Cover yourself up, come on. But and don't dirty up the bathroom, because other hikers got to come through there too. Your next stop should be Erwin, Tennessee. Right as the trail, you come off the trail down the road, right there is Uncle Johnny's. It's a pretty good hostel, Uncle Johnny's. And then it's about, I think, 5 mile ride into town. He has shuttles there, or you could just probably hitchhike in. But it is convenient that it's right there as you come off the trail. A lot of times, for those in a budget, if you cross the bridge, the river there, and head towards the trail, as soon as you get up on the trail, before a little ways, there's a few places to put a tent up if you want to save money. Alright, next is Roan Mountain. It's a little town. Well, the trail comes out. You got Roan Mountain on one way, it's a little town, and you got Elk Garden the other way. I usually will go into Rome Mountain, and there's a medium-sized mom-and-pop grocery store, barbecue place, Subway. You get your resupply. And the hostel there, right close to the trail. I forget the name of it, Rome Mountain something hostel. But I like that. They have a tenting option. Unless they've changed the indoors, I think there's only like 6 beds. But the tenting's good, and they run you into town and back. And they have a legendary breakfast. It's buffet style, and I've never heard a hiker complain. You have to pay extra for that. But I've never heard a hiker complain about paying for that breakfast. And if you go to Elk Garden, I met a really nice lady last year who owns a convenience store there. Lots of good stuff. You could resupply there. She stopped her car. I was on the road and said she had recognized me from my videos and actually fronted me a pack of Marlboros when I was down on my luck. Thank you so much. Next stop is Hampton, Tennessee. There's really not much there, but there's enough. There's the Braymore Castle and then Brown's Grocery Store. Braymore Castle is a pretty okay hostel. It was alright when I stayed there. And the grocery store has plenty to get you resupplied. And then you're at Watauga Lake. Usually that Watauga Lake shelter, it's closed or it's flooded or that one's a bad shelter. For one thing, there is absolutely nowhere you could pitch a tent. The ground just slopes from all sides up to the shelter. If you're a tenter like me, do not plan on staying at the Watauga Lake shelter. I don't even got to look now because I know what's next. It's Damascus. I lived there for 8 winters. Damascus is your next stop. And if you're lined up right, you'll hike in the trail days, which I always say go to trail days. If you like partying, there's plenty of that. If you don't like partying, there's plenty of talks, there's documentaries, book signings. There's something for everybody. And if you're before Damascus, oh, by the way, it's always the weekend after Mother's Day. If you're before that or you've passed it, there's rides and shuttles going back to it. One of the main questions that trail days hikers ask is, where are you at? Meaning, where are you at on the trail? Because after trail days, you'll go back to where you got off. But yeah, don't miss trail days. But if you're not there and you don't want to do trail days, Damascus is a great trail town. They have a Food City supermarket, 3 or 4 hostels. They have the best outfitters on the trail. And I don't only say that because the owner is one of my best friends, Jeff Patrick. But they don't do souvenirs, they don't do bicycles, they don't do canoe trips. All they do is hiking and camping. And every one of the people that work there know what they're doing. And the prices are very reasonable. Alright, if you're a touch every white blaze through hike type of person, ignore what I'm about to say. When you leave Damascus, everybody's going to tell you, including me, you just stay on the Virginia Creeper Trail. It's a bicycle, horse, and foot trail that kind of runs alongside with the AT. So what happens is, if you take the Appalachian Trail, it's a typical up, down, no views, up, down, and you get to Saunders Shelter. Nice shelter. I only been there once because my first year I didn't know to take the Creeper Trail. And then you do the up, down, up, down, up, down, and I believe it's Lost Mountain Shelter or one of them. The next shelter anyway. Well, if you take the Virginia Creeper Trail, the AT actually comes down and hooks up with the AT for a bit, goes back up, and towards the end, you're hiking where you can actually see the Appalachian Trail. I mean, you're hiking where you can see the Virginia Creeper Trail, which is nice and smooth and everything. And you're going over roots and rocks. And the Virginia Creeper Trail, it's a beautiful hike. There's a reason that people come from all over in the fall to ride that bicycle trail in Damascus. Damascus is a bicycle town, by the way. But it runs along the Laurel River. There's so many beautiful places to camp. There's a cafe halfway through. It's a nice change of pace if you're not concerned with touching every white blaze. If anybody did the Virginia Creeper Trail, I would still say they did a through hike. you're out there to enjoy and everything, and I love the Appalachian Trail, but it is called the Long Green Tunnel for a reason. It can get kind of boring at times. And when you've got like a nice, I think it's 15, 17 mile hike along the river, anyway, that's my opinion. I don't want to tempt anybody. After Damascus, you will be going into Grayson Highlands. Really nice up there. It's mostly level once you get up there, and they say it looks like Wyoming or something. There's a lot of rock formations, and it's a pleasant hike. It really is. And it's very crowded up there when the rhododendron blooms kind of thing. And of course, that's where you're going to see your wild ponies. Just be careful around them ponies. They're not wild, but they'll want to come up and lick salt, and of course some idiot tourists feed them. They can get a little aggressive sometimes, especially if there's a young one. So just give them their space and they're cool with you. But yeah, they're not the petting ponies you would find at a fair or something. Alright, used to be Troutdale, Virginia. We're in Virginia now. I would always go into Troutdale. The Baptist church has a really great hostel there. I've always liked that place. But unfortunately, I think it's been 2, maybe 3 years now, the restaurant convenience store has been closed. And Troutdale is nothing but a crossroad. There's a post office, the hostel, and a closed grocery and convenience store. So it's kind of like, damn, I went to town, but I can't get any town food. You can send a mail drop there if you want. Or you can push on a little more to Partnership Shelter and then hitch, or I think you can, I think they had a bus now, and go into Marion, and they got Walmart and supermarkets and all that stuff. And Partnership Shelter is one of the first shelters that you can order pizza from. It's really close to the road. It's where the Rangers headquarters are there and everything, so they'll drive up from Marion. But I think you got to have something like $30 order or better, but it's easy to get a couple hikers together to spend that. Okay, next is Atkins. Oh, by the way, right before you get to Atkins, there's this living museum farm thing, which they always have a sign, through hikers are free and welcome to come look. I've never done it, but on your way to the road is an old-timey schoolhouse. And in the past, I've known hikers say they didn't know that you could go inside. Yeah, anybody's allowed to go inside and look around. And they usually have Trail Magic inside and are registered. So you see that old-timey schoolhouse, stop in there, you never know. Plus it's cool, nice place to take a break. And then I think it's maybe a couple more miles, you get into Atkins. Atkins really is just an interstate exit. 81 runs. The trail crosses Interstate 81 5 or 6 times in Virginia, but that's like the first place. There's the Relax Inn. They're a very hiker-friendly motel. Just as you pop off the trail, they're there. Couple convenience stores and the Barn Restaurant. And if you don't want to spend any money staying, one thing I do is you can load up on a pizza or food and drinks and whatnot, and hike about a mile, maybe a mile and a half, and there's water source and camping spots there. Next up is Bland. Real exciting place. It's about 3 miles into Bland. I've hitched it before and I've walked all the way in before. You never know, but it's mostly level. They have a Dollar General. They sometimes have a supermarket. Sometimes it's open, and then next year it's been sold out. But yeah, you can resupply and plan. There's a Big Walker Motel, but I've never heard anything too good about it. I've actually heard instead of giving you a hiker rate, they charge more for hikers because we dirty up the room. I just heard, I don't know if it's true or not. But you can resupply and come back out, and then the next shelter isn't that far, I think a couple miles, but it's a good little climb up out of there. One of my favorite places on the trail, Trent's Grocery Store. It's at mile 608. What I like about it is, it's not a town or nothing. You come to the road crossing, it's 4 tenths down the road. I think basically it's more like the a hunting camp for hunting season. They have a camp area with like trailers. It's nothing fancy, and reasonable showers and laundry. If you don't mind a little gunk in there, it's no freaking KOA campground, but it's super reasonably priced. The store's got enough to add to your food, and they make a great greasy burger and pizza. I wish there was a Trent's at every road crossing. And right after Trent's, you get back on the trail, maybe it's 3-4 miles, is Dismal Falls. By that time in your hike, it's summertime, and Dismal Falls is like, there's maybe a 12-foot drop, and then for like, 20 feet, the water's only about a foot deep. Then it drops again. Then you got another space that drops again. It's a perfect place just to lay around in the water. I love Dismal Falls. The only thing about Dismal Falls, though, is there is a road where the locals can get up there, too. So I hate to see it, sometimes there's trash everywhere. Always amazes me how the people with cars can't pack their trash out. But it's a really nice spot. Next stop is Pearisburg. Pearisburg's got everything a hiker needs except an outfitter. They got a Walmart. They got a couple motels that do a hiker rate, and and they got the hostel out at the Catholic Church. It's a pretty nice hostel out there. Had a little trouble with the locals last year, but I think I've read in the guidebook that maybe they have an attendant now. The problem was it was way out on the end of town with no attendant, and the locals know about it, and you all know how much gear costs. But I think they've got that problem solved, and be sure to leave a donation for them. Pearisburg, I think it's about maybe 25-30 miles. If you go the second weekend after trail days, is always the captain's annual party. Great party put on by the captain, who thru hiked sometime, and he has a party every year, and it's a great event. And it's the one little place, there's a little zip line that goes across the water, which is kind of cool. If you've seen my documentaries, you've seen that. Next up, Catawba. I like Catawba a lot. For one, it's the famous Home Place restaurant, which hikers will hear about if you haven't already. It's an all-you-can-eat place. Really nice place. The outside looks like an old-time plantation house, and they actually like having hikers around. They say it gives it ambiance. Usually what happens is, by that time you're so food crazy, they go in there, especially a bunch of guys, and they're like, who can eat the most? And they stuff themselves, and they wind up in the backyard puking. It's kind of a tradition. But yeah, the Home Place restaurant. And then at the other end is the convenience store. It's really close to the trail. They're geared up for us. They make burgers and pizza and stuff like that. And of course, Four Pines Hostel is in Catawba, one of my most favorite hostels. Joe's been doing it for quite a while. He has a 3-car garage that's been converted over to couches and chairs and cooking, and it's just a fantastic place to get rested up. And it's also kind of a farm. They have chickens and a few things like that. But yeah, don't miss Four Pines Hostel. And tell Joe that Seven said hey. After Catawba is Daleville. I like Daleville. What most hikers will usually do, now I'm not big on always spending money on motels, but there's a few places where we throw in and we get rooms. And the Howard Johnson's in Daleville is always a hiker place, and they always put us back in the last building. But they usually, as long as you're not making a lot of noise, they leave us alone, and they have the continental breakfast in the morning, which is always great. And also, one of the best resupplies, 4/10 from the trail, is a Kroger's Superstore. Excellent, excellent supply. Restaurants, and there's also an outfitter there too. So Daleville's a great stop. Now what I've done in the past, if I'm really low on money, which kind of happens a lot, there's a reason I have a GoFundMe. And I could really use the help. Anyway, right before you get to the road, there's about 3 places where altogether you could probably get up 4 or 5 tents. and I've never had a problem. I'll tent there and go into town, do my resupply and rest up, and then head out the next day. But if you can, throw in with a couple hikers and get a room at the Howard Johnson's. Always a good time at the Howard Johnson's. But remember, when you do these places, don't cause trouble, because other people are coming behind you. It comes up. That's how it's pronounced. You'd think Buchanan, but it's Buchanan, but I've actually never gone in there. Okay. Next up is Glasgow. You're gonna love Glasgow. It's like a very small town. There's 2 gas stations, a dollar store, a post office, a really great Italian restaurant with reasonably priced food, a laundromat. But also, too, a few years ago, they built a shelter in kind of a town park, and they add to it every year. It has electricity, it has a gas-fired hot shower, it has bunks, it had a microwave last year, and tanning, you've probably seen it in my videos. It's a really great place, just don't get stuck there. I mean, the Italian restaurant is 100 yards from where you're at. And if you get there on Tuesday or Wednesday, they got a great pizza special. Yeah, Glasgow. Highly recommend Glasgow. Next up, Waynesboro, Virginia. Waynesboro, Virginia is one of the slightly larger towns on the trail. I like Waynesboro a lot. Any town that lets us camp in the town for free is always my favorite, because then you can really rest up and do your resupply, your laundry and all that without having to spend money on a motel or anything. They've got a park that they let us tent there, and boy, it does get hot there in the summer. But yeah, I really like Waynesboro. You can get a free shower at the YMCA, which is a block away. It's also where you get your water. There's no water in the park. And the library's like a block away. And really nice library. I use libraries a lot for internet and uploading things and stuff like that. Plus, as hot as it gets there, it's nice to go in there and just sit in the AC. As you leave Waynesboro, you enter Shenandoah National Park. I love Shenandoah, but I do it slightly different than other people. Shenandoah is 100 miles long, but like only a couple miles wide. Haven't had hunting there in like forever. There's times where I got to chase the deer away. They'll follow you down the trail. And if you're going to see a bear, you just go to the wayside. Waysides are like tourist stores with a restaurant, picnic tables. Sit there a couple hours and eventually want to walk across the parking lot. But Shenandoah is really cool. For one thing I like is it's 100 miles, and evenly spaced in that 100 miles is 3 waysides and a camp store that all sell food. Shenandoah, you don't need to pack a bunch of food for that. One thing I found out though, they no longer sell tobacco in Shenandoah. Make sure if you're a smoker, make sure you got enough to get through. Now, there's the aqua blaze thing. I have never aqua blazed, but everybody I've talked to over the years, I've only heard really one person say they enjoyed it, and he was an expert kayak guy. The aqua blazing is taking the Shenandoah River instead of going through the park and hiking. And it sounds great, doesn't it? But it's not a river through the woods. It's not freaking, it's not Deliverance without the rape scene. I mean, Deliverance, it looked beautiful until the rape scene, right? Now, you go through residential areas, there's signs everywhere, no stopping, no camping. I think the local people are getting tired of it. The water's polluted, and it's a lot of work. If it hasn't rained enough, you can break up your stuff on rocks and stuff. Friend, a couple of years ago, his canoe cracked in half. If you got an aqua blaze, there are companies that take groups and do it professionally, but I don't know why you'd want to when you got Shenandoah. And the trail through there is nice, but what I like to do in Shenandoah, you pay to drive through there. I think it's $15 a day or something. At night, there's no traffic. Nobody drives through Shenandoah at night and early mornings. I like to walk the road at night. It's the only time I night hike, and the views from there, it's an experience. I kind of pretend it's The Walking Dead or something, you know, and I'm the only human. But anyway, that's my opinion on Shenandoah. When you come out of Shenandoah, you'll be at the trailhead, and you can hitch in 5 miles to Front Royal. They don't, I heard something about a hostel, but they don't have a hostel as far as I know in Front Royal. But they got supermarkets and a fast food, and I think there's still a Kmart there. No Outfitter, and of course a post office. And it's always been an easy hitch for me. Next stop, Harpers Ferry. Harpers Ferry, where the ATC headquarters is. If you're a thru hiker or a section hiker, they'll ask you to come outside and they take your picture. You fill out your information and you put it either in the thru hiker book or the section hiker. I'm in a few of those books. And one thing about Harpers Ferry, there really is no resupply in Harpers Ferry. Send a mail drop there, or what you can do is there's a bus, or sometimes people will take you. There's a Walmart about 5 miles away. But in the town itself, there's no resupply. There's an outfitter there, and you can get, you know, some Mountain House and things, but the regular resupply, no. But Harpers Ferry is really cool. It's a historical town. One thing, I could never live there though. It's on a really steep hill. I would not want to do that hill every day. When I live somewhere, I like to be level. You'll understand that better after a thru hike. By the way, you know the AT only does 2 things. It goes up and it goes down. Harpers Ferry. Oh, by the way too, if you want to go into DC, Amtrak's first stop out of DC is Harpers Ferry, or the last stop going back, and it's very reasonably priced. It's a quick, easy way. A lot of hikers, they get up there around the 4th of July, they'll take the Amtrak in, watch the fireworks, walk around DC all night, and come back the next morning. You got that option too farther up into New York. You can take a train into New York, real quick ride. I have gone into Boonesboro a couple of times. It's got enough for a resupply. I would never stay overnight, but go in, you can get a little town food and a little extra resupply. It's not too far. Same with Smithsburg. You can hit those towns. Usually the hitchhiking is pretty easy in those places. They know you're doing the trail. Coming up, Caledonia State Park. It's a beautiful park, but every time I've gone there, the restrooms are locked, water fountains are turned off. I get the feeling like they don't really want us there, but it's a beautiful park, nice place to chill and relax for a bit. Pine Grove Furnace State Park. The AT Museum's there. One of the days I got to go, haven't been in it yet. But it's also where you do the half-gallon ice cream challenge. There's a little camp store there, and you get a half-gallon of ice cream, and you eat it as fast as you can, so that when it's super hot summer weather, and you hike another mile and start going uphill, that way you can puke it all up. It's a true hiker tradition. And you get a little wooden spoon like this that says half-gal chow. I'm serious. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really is. God, I love the trail, and I'm going to be out there as I'm making this. I'll be on the trail a week from today. God, I can't wait. And I'm going to be with my girlfriend. Perfect storm. This is going to be a hell of a year. By the way, I'm going to do my normal documentary, but we're also going to do a video blog thing of me and her. She has talent. She used to be a model. She's an actress. She's naturally funny, great sense of humor, and with me and my dry sense of humor, I think we're going to have some really fun video clips, maybe 1 or 2 a week. It'll be funny and also be informative. I hope you hang out for that. Oh, next would be Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Don't get it mixed up with Waynesboro, Virginia. Not really a hiker town, but they have a Walmart. And once you go to Walmart, it's maybe a 3-mile hitch back to the trailhead. Very convenient. And I think it's maybe only a couple miles. There's a shelter right there. So what I would normally do I actually pushed past that first shelter. The next shelter is really nice there's a nice waterway and it's kind of shelters on one side of bridge, camping over here, tenting. But you can get a bunch of extra food at Walmart and socialize and have a good, I'll call it a picnic kind of style camping that night. And just as you leave the shelter area, it goes through a little city park and they have trash cans. So, remember, leave no trace. You take it out there, you bring it back, or you put it in a trash can somewhere. Alright, next is Boiling Springs. Boiling Springs is a beautiful little town. And the Potomac Appalachian Trail something headquarters is there. And you can recharge your phone, and there's a bulletin board, sometimes cool stuff on that. Good hiker box there. Oh boy, Duncannon, Pennsylvania, a true hiker town. It's probably the most blue-collar place, out-of-work blue-collar place you'll ever come across on the trail. But it's the home of the Doyle Hotel, which is legendary on the Appalachian Trail. Google Doyle Hotel, Duncannon, Pennsylvania. You'll know what I mean. And of course, Trail Angel Mary lives there, and she does shuttles around that area. You need a shuttle, get with Trail Angel Mary. And there is a campground there. Next is Port Clinton, Pennsylvania. I love Port Clinton. It's really not much of a town. It's just a little strip of buildings along this really busy road, highway. But they have a town park there and they let us camp there. And you got plenty of room. There's no water in the park, but it should be in your guidebook, or you'll see the sign as you walk into the park. A house there lets us fill up at an outdoor spigot. They got a big pavilion. One of the coolest things there is the barber shop. You got to go in and experience this barber shop. He usually gives hikers a cup of coffee and a cookie, wants to know your name, and he does a great cheap haircut. And most of them, they're musicians. They play guitars and banjos. It's a really great experience. And there's a post office there. The other cool thing is, a mile down this level highway, you notice I say level a lot, you'll understand by the time you get to Port Clinton. Level highway, a mile down, that has everything. Walmart, the largest Cabela's in the world, I think is store number 1. Everything there you want, all the fast food you want. Port Clinton is a great place, and it's a great place to kind of rest up between the Pennsylvania rocks. Anything you've ever heard about the Pennsylvania rocks, it's probably true. It sucks. Next resupply is Palmerton, Pennsylvania. They used to have what's called the Jailhouse Hostel, although it was never an actual jail, but it was the basement of the old government building. But they've stopped doing that. So there's really nowhere to stay, and by this far north on the trail, a motel room's going to run you $100, $150, no more in the south prices. Good resupply there, laundromat. I would suggest getting in and out, but one thing is Lehigh Gap is one of your first real technical climbs. There's places where you got to put the hiking poles in the pack and you're using hands and feet to get up. So get ready for that climb, but it's one of those experiences. Wind Gap. My next stop is usually Wind Gap, Pennsylvania. It's like 7/10 off the trail. You can walk into town. There's good resupply. There's fast food. And then what I usually do is, there's no hostel or nothing. I'll come back out, and if you hike in about 200 yards, going north on the trail, plenty of places to pitch a tent and spend your day or night there. There's usually somewhere to camp close that you don't have to waste money on motels. Next is Delaware Water Gap, Church of the Mountain Hostel. They've been doing it for years there, and it's a nice little hostel, and you can tent there too. It's donation, and they have an Outfitters in Delaware Water Gap, and one of my favorite places, the bakery, ice cream, fresh pies. It's a treat. But there's no resupply again. You can take a bus to the Walmart there, but we're talking 30 minutes one way. It's good place to try to get a mail drop to. And what you can do is when you're in one of these towns that have a great supermarket and a post office close by, mail it on up ahead. But yeah, no resupply in Delaware Water Gap. Water Gap. Branchville. I tell you what, I haven't really been any farther north than this since 2014. 15, maybe if you follow me on Facebook, it wasn't a good year for me, and I don't remember a lot from 15. And last year, I was vehicle supported and got sidetracked by going to dead shows. So I'm not going to give any more advice this farther north. Plus, you can find out things for yourself. I only recommend what I've seen last year and what I know is going on. But yeah, AWOL's guidebook, and it's great to discover some of these things on your own. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing a video blog kind of thing on the trail. First time I've done this, 1 or 2 things every week, because I got this wonderful partner who's so talented, and I think we can make some really funny, cool videos and show you the trail while we're doing it. Well, Perfect Storm, please come over here and say hi to everybody. My girl, Perfect Storm.
Hi, everybody. Can't wait to get out on the trail and meet everybody I've been talking to on Facebook. Super excited. Hope you guys follow us. We plan on trying to keep everybody laughing and happy.
Oh, it's going to be a great time. Look for us. Look for us on a Facebook coming near you.
Bye.
Isn't she sweet?